There is a ferocious storm coming. You cannot outrun this storm. There's a storm on the horizon. Run! I'm your host, Eric Brown, and with me, Mr. Mike Jones.
Hey, what's up, baby? How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm embracing the storm, baby. Embracing it.
I think some people are doing some running right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the thing, right? When the storm's coming, the best thing to do is run.
I mean, that's what I've heard,
Take
man.
cover.
You know, you talk about that fight or flight impulse when there's a storm coming. And most people in the context of this conversation, and you are absolutely one of those people, generally when the storm comes, you run like hell.
Yeah, or take shelter, hover on down and hunker down and wait for the storm to pass.
Yeah. And I would encourage you in this particular pod blast to truly listen with the intent to be influenced. Now, let's be clear about this at the beginning of this pod blast. If we're talking about a meteorological storm like a hurricane or a tornado, when that storm comes, hunker down, baby. Take some shelter. But the storm that we are talking about today is the one that you experience in your life. The circumstances, the situations that occur in your life. We're talking about those stormy situations that you are experiencing. We are suggesting, we get to talk about this just a little bit, y'all, but we are suggesting when that storm shows up, that you do not run a high, that you don't get intoxicated and find a way to hunker down, that you are not finding ways to avoid those storms, but that you are taking that storm head on, that you are leaning into that storm. Because the more you lean into it, the more powerfully you are going to experience the solution on the other side of that storm.
Yeah, but Mike, that sounds easier said than done. And what about if you really, truly get punched in the face or struck by lightning in the context of this conversation in one of those circumstances?
And Eric, I'm going to tell you that's going to happen because I've experienced that myself. But you have got to stay cognizant of the fact that there are so many things that you don't control where the storm is concerned. In fact, very likely you don't control the storm that you are experiencing. It may come in the way of something universal like COVID or a recession. It may come in the way of something personal like a divorce or a betrayal in a relationship or some bankruptcy or money issues. It could come in so many different ways. So many of those things you do not control. But no matter how hard the storm hits you, no matter how hard it hits you in the face, the one thing that you will remain in control of throughout this storm is the choice that you are making in the midst of the storm. And the choice that I am encouraging you to make in the midst of this storm is to lean into the storm. If you run away from the storm, guess what? Please hear me today. You will extend the storm. All of the factors that you're going to deal with in the storm, all of the winds and the rains and all of the things that are going to happen to you, the more you are running from it, you are absolutely acting in fear. And when you are in fear and you are running away from something, I want you to understand that it is going to prolong the extent of time that you are going to experience the storm.
So in prior pod blasts, you talk about coming back to the outcome. And I think for our listeners, when you're in the middle of the storm and you have no control over it, how do you reframe that and come back to the outcome to keep moving forward through the storm?
Well, I mean, and that's such a very powerful message, Eric. When you are leaning into this storm, you've got to know where you're going. So you've got to know what your outcome is that you're leaning into. When you are running from pain, the pain will persist. But when you are running to gain, Gain, running to gain, you are going to move more swiftly through the storm. You are going to move more swiftly through the hard times. You are going to increase the time factor in which you are going to be moving forward. You are going to decrease the time factor that you're going to be in the storm. If you are running from the storm and the storm is moving in the same direction that you're running into, you are going to allow yourself to be hovering in the storm and experiencing the pain for a longer period of time. But when you have the courage to lean into that storm, to move forward in the midst of that storm, knowing where you are going, because you have a specific outcome that you are focused on in the midst of the storm, it is going to decrease the time that you spend in this storm. You got to understand something. Everything that you resist will persist. So I'm encouraging you to not resist this storm, but to lean into it and move forward to a very specific outcome in the midst of the storm.
So, Mike, I'm not sure if in the past when a circumstance hit me, I was resisting it or not. However, I tended to feel sorry for myself. What would you say when that circumstance is out of your control and you just want to have that minute to feel sorry for yourself about it?
I'm going to say that that's 1 minute that you just wasted in your life. I'm going to say that that is 1 minute that you just spent in the storm that was unnecessary. I'm going to say that that was 1 minute that you just absolutely gave to the negativity that was created for you, and it is never going to benefit you. So my coaching to you is I understand that sometimes you may have to take a pause, but I tell people all the time that I'm coaching, when you're going through hell, baby, this is not a good time to pontificate the next move. This is the time to get focused on a specific outcome and move your butt, but move your butt forward.
Wow, so you heard it here first from Mr. Mike Jones himself at the edge. And if you're not taking up
You're not on the edge.
And if you're not living your life on the edge, you're taking up far too much room.
So I invite you today, baby, to come to the edge. Because as Eric just said, if you're not out on that edge, you are taking up far too much room.
Here we go now.
Woo!